In this video, we're going to take a look at 3.1.3 Basic Inputs Programming with the VEX v5 testbed and VEX Code v5. This is going to be a continuation from part 1, where we're going to use the code from part 1 in order to go through and add some comments. So comments help us describe and document our code and helps others to understand and troubleshoot errors with the code. So we're going to add these comments in, and then we're going to see what kind of works, what else that is going to need to be done for part 2. So when I take a look at VEX Code v5, here's the code that we had. So if you happen to delete it from like the end of the last video, you can always hit the undo button and that'll bring the code back. So, or you can always rebuild the code. Wouldn't take very long to go through and do that. So I'm gonna go ahead and go to the comments section, and in the gray block I'm gonna grab one of these and put it up top. We're gonna go ahead and we'll put on this one here, this will be called part 1, and this is gonna be the bump switch provided code. We're going to grab a second comment block and attach underneath, and what we're going to say is when bumper is pressed, motor spins forward at 50% velocity. And then a third comment block is going to go right above the wait statement, to where we will say motor runs for 5 seconds and then turns off. So this is going to allow us to finish off the example code that we had, and what they want us to do now, and give us an opportunity to kind of mess around with comment blocks, is they want us to write a program where we're going to wait for a bumper switch to be bumped. They say that recall that a bump occurs when whenever a switch is pressed and released and not pressed and held. So that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with our programming method. It's just talking about the action, the physical action we would do in order to make that happen. Both motors are going to turn on at half power until the sensor is bumped again, and then both motors should move in reverse at half power for 3.5 seconds. So what I can do here is I can start to break down these simple behaviors into pseudocode and start to build out my program. So one of the things that I may do as I go through and start looking at this is I really don't need this program anymore for part 2. So I can go ahead, and we already got it documented in part 1, so I can actually get rid of this, and I'm going to go ahead and kind of start from scratch. Sometimes that's easier, and sometimes I like to go through and build a code where, you know, we've already got some kind of starting point. But let's go ahead and we'll grab a comment block. We'll call this part 2 using the bump switch, and then we'll go ahead and do a wait until statement. So under the control section, wait until with sensing, I can go ahead and grab a bumper switch condition in there that I can throw in, and then I might want to go ahead and take a look at, well, what do I need to do next? Motion wise, I need to set my velocities for both of my motors to 50%. And what I'm going to do here is underneath those set motor, or right above those set motor velocities, before we get in there, I'm going to grab a comment and drop it in there and go ahead and say set both motors to 50% velocity. So just a little comment in there to help us kind of know what's going on. Then the next thing we're going to do, I'm going to grab a comment, drop it in. The next thing that would happen is that both motors are going to turn on going forward. So now when I go up to motion, I can grab spin motor forward, connect those two blocks, make sure I have the right motor. Then once I go through and have that both motors are going to go forward, my next thing is I need to have a wait 1 second. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the wait 1 second block, snap it to the bottom, and then I'm going to have a wait until, and I'm going to go ahead and grab my bumper switch condition to drop in there. I'm going to go ahead and kind of move down here a little bit. So as I do this, I might want to throw a comment right above the wait statement and go ahead and say, you know, allows time for the first section of code to be run before the button press. So now when I look at doing the next thing, we're going to go ahead and we're going to set our velocities. Both of them will be again at 50%. Make sure I grab the right block here. Right before that though, I might want to do like I did up here. I can go ahead and I'm going to copy this comment and I'm going to grab the comment block, drag over, click in there, say paste, and actually I will need to move that above to set both motors to 50% velocity. We're going to, I'm going to grab this comment block up here, but the second section of code, we're going to go and have them turning on in reverse. Then under my motion section, I can go ahead and grab my 2 comment blocks. Both of them go to reverse. And then once they go into reverse, I can go ahead and throw a wait statement in there. We're going to have it run for, both of these motors run for 3.5 seconds. And then we're going to go ahead and stop the motors. So I can go ahead and grab these 2 blocks. Make sure I change this contextual menu. I might want to throw a comment in right above the wait statement and say both motors run for 3.5 seconds and stop. So now what I can do is I'm going to see I've got a pretty big program going on, but I can see the sections of code that I have going on here. So I'm going to go ahead and download and let's observe the behaviors to see what we get. So I'm going to hit the run button. So the program, notice the LED is on. That means we got a program running as well as on your screen of your robot brain. If I press the button, there's my motors. They're going to turn at 50% going forward, both running in the same direction. Now it's waiting for another button press, so I press the button again. Now they go in reverse. They're going to run for 3.5 seconds and stop. So this is definitely matching the intended behavior. That is what they've described in the simple behaviors as well. So once you have this program, you can go ahead and hit share. This is going to be activity 312 part 2. We can go ahead and say, or 313 part 2, I should say. And we can go ahead and say save. And then from here, we're going to be ready on, we're going to move on to part 3 that deals with the potentiometer. So before we move on, I'm going to go to File, Save As. I'm going to go ahead and name it to the next part. So we'll just go say part 3 and hit the save button. Once I have that ready, I can go ahead and get rid of this program for part 3. And now I can go ahead and start on the part 3 code, which we'll cover in the next video.